Welcome to the Sherry Welsh Coaching Podcast. This is Phil Johnson, and I'm here today with leadership coach and author Sherry Welsh of sherrywelsh.com. And Sherry coaches individuals both privately and works with groups within companies. And she's also an author. You can get a copy of her book, which is titled Slowing Down: Unexpected Ways to Thrive as a Female Leader, from any of the major book retailers. Sherry, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Phil. Great to be here.
Sherry, in our last episode, we walked through your role clarity exercise, which you use in order to help your clients reconnect with why they came to a company in the first place, what they uniquely bring to the role that they're in, and how that role and the mission of the company make a difference in the world, make the world a better place in some way. So role clarity is reconnecting with those things. And we got into that in quite a bit of detail there. And we're going to take it in another direction today. But I wonder if, to begin with in this episode, you can kind of just recap for us a little bit what that role clarity exercise is and how you walk through that with people.
Sure. So you summarized it pretty well with connecting to the mission and purpose of the company. And it's not just what's on the website as their mission statement, but truly drilling down into who benefits and what does it matter that they even are playing in the business world. So as we get clear on that and linking it then to the individual who's a part of that company, who chose to be a part of that company, and what they bring to the table and how they can every day increase their value proposition to the organization to continue to make a difference. So the idea is that you get more and more clear on why you matter and what contribution are you making and what difference does it make, because you're spending a lot of time in your current role. So you want to make it a good use of your time, and you want to get something from it in a way that is useful, that's expanding, that's growth oriented. So the role clarity exercise has been really useful in that way to help people get kind of refreshed on what has them choose to continue to stay where they are and do the kind of work that they're doing.
Or to put it in terms of one of our previous episodes, it helps them to own and love the work that they're in rather than just kind of being there as a placeholder.
Exactly. And just tolerating it day after day. Exactly. Yeah. So the role clarity exercise is a tool that can be used for life. So it can be refreshed on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. What difference am I making today? What can I do to continue to strengthen my position here? Not out of fear for job security, but simply because what can I do to continue to make a bigger difference?
Yeah.
So from a level 5 perspective, a true partner perspective, mm-hmm. so that it helps me continue to love my work, but it also helps the people I work with.
Right. And as we talked about it in the previous episode, making yourself become essentially indispensable in whatever role you're in.
Right. And not out of fear, again, not because you're afraid of losing your job, but really because you care. And it matters to you that the company you're a part of is up to good things in the world, that they're making a difference, that they're looked at as a company that people want to join, want to be up to that mission, that cause, that purpose. So that's the idea, is that you become indispensable because you're participating fully. You're adding value, you're adding ideas, you're coming up with new ways of managing business problems that have been ongoing for years. The customer starts to see you differently because they see that you're a fresh approach, that you're listening to them, that what you talk about is consistent with what the company stands for. Mm-hmm. So they see alignment, they see integrity, and that feels good for you as an individual.
Right.
To be a part of something like that. So that's where role clarity, is very, very useful for everyone, every day.
Yeah.
And that's the power in it.
Now you mentioned that role clarity in the way you present it and help your clients to use it. It's a tool for life. So maybe we can spend the rest of this episode kind of expanding it. We've really gotten into how this role clarity exercise can be really useful in the current position that you're in, but we can also apply it to the past and to the future. So maybe you can take it from there and expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it is present, which is where the power is, obviously. And then let's look at how it can be used to represent the past, meaning your past experiences, what you've done up until this point, which comes across in this digital age of a document called a resume.
Yeah.
And that document is an entry ticket to conversations with potential new opportunities, whether it's inside the current company you're a part of or externally to another potential company or potential industry. So the idea is, as I talk with some of my clients that are considering making a change, I ask them, well, how do you feel about your resume? And you can hear it in their voice. The energy is just, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, it's all right. I haven't looked at it in a while. Some people haven't updated their resume in 10, 20 years. I know that was my case when I was at Bosch a long time. I didn't update my resume over all those years.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is you got to go back and recreate a past, which is all a memory, the best you can, given what you remember you did at that time. And it gets a little stale. So what I've learned to do is use the role clarity exercise to help people, especially, more recently with some of my clients that are making big changes. Use the role clarity exercise to help them re-engage with their resume and what they did and how they create then a living document that really represents who they are and what they've done up to this point and how proud they are of how far they've come and what they've contributed.
Yeah.
So you can do the role clarity exercise on each of the companies that you've been a part of in the past. And just simply go through the exercises we described it last time and really ask yourself, what was that company up to? What was their purpose? What difference did they make? And then look at the roles you did in those companies and say, all right, well, what difference did I make there? Mm-hmm. How did I make it really stand out? How did I make impact the results and the people around me and the customers and the business objectives and how the business evolved and grew or expanded into different markets or whatever your role was there, and how you made products better quality, more innovative, whatever it was that you did. And so you can just take your time to bring your resume to life, even jobs that you did 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you remind yourself, oh my God, look at all I've done. It's pretty cool. It's actually pretty decent what I've accomplished so far. And that's the kind of energy you want to take into conversations with people you share your resume with. And you want to be really proud of it. And it tells a story. Mm-hmm. It tells the story of your life, your professional life up to this point. And it just reignites that passion you have of getting excited about any possible opportunity that is growth, that expands your experiences.
Yeah, that's good. I really like the way you phrased that a resume is an entry ticket to conversations about opportunities. That's such a powerful kind of approach to take. And it ties into our podcast that we did about how interviews are conversations about opportunities. But let's tie it in with this role clarity exercise. I'm in a current role. I go through the role clarity exercise to either reconnect or stay connected with why I'm here and how I'm making a difference personally in the work that my company is making a difference in the world. But companies are always changing. I'm changing. I'm on a growth path. Opportunities come up, maybe a new role within the company, maybe another opportunity somewhere else. then I need to have a way to present what I've been doing. And so you're saying I can apply this role clarity exercise to all my past positions to make my resume something that is a document that I want to talk about. I'm excited to talk about. And when those conversations come up, I'm not flat. I'm not defensive. I'm excited. And
exactly. Yeah.
Now, can you continue this arc? We've focused on the present and the past with getting the resume up to speed. How do we use this role clarity tool going forward?
Yeah. It's a great point. So what I do with clients when I'm working with them in the transition phase and potential transition phase is really, and this is something my coach Steve had shared with me that's helped me tremendously when I'm developing new client work. I recommend they go to the company website that they're interested in joining, or even the current one. So we'll do two parts here. So the external one's a little easier, so we'll do that, and then we can apply it to the internal. So you now have your resume updated. You're really excited about it. You're very proud of it. It really represents who you are today, given everything you've done up to this point. You can talk about, you've connected the dots through your life journey that has a story. And so it's easier to have conversation about that.
Yeah.
So now you're looking at a potential company that you would always thought would be interesting to work for, or they've been in the news lately and they sound like what they're doing is really interesting. So what you want to do is go out to that company's website and look at the latest news. Most companies now in this the digital age that we're a part of, they all have websites that have latest news updates. Mm-hmm. And you can Google, if not, other sites that may be talking about them. But you go to their current website, you look at the leadership team, you look at what kind of leaders are in there, what their bios say, what's their mission statement, their vision statement. And you think about what you've currently done and what you're currently doing and what you've done in the past, now that it's all refreshed and come to life through your resume. And you start to have conversations about a potential future position there, meaning you look at what's unique about yourself. You look at the value you've created in the current role you're in and the past roles you've had. And then you look at what that particular company's up to and how you can apply everything that you know and everything you've done and all the experiences you've had and your creative level 6 wisdom, fresh ideas, new ideas, to what's going on at that particular company. That's how you have conversations about it. That's how you connect the dots for the people. And you may not even know the people yet. Mm-hmm. So at every company, there's a contact person. It's very easy to find what their nomenclature is for emails. So you can even send it the old way in snail mail. And it's simply getting a document, whether it's a handwritten letter or an email with your resume attached, to a person at that company. Say, hey, I just noticed what announcements you made recently. And I wanted to share with you something that I experienced directly, very similar to that in my current role. Mm-hmm. It might be useful to talk about it, and I can share with you what worked well here. And it might be something you all may consider as you go forward in this new business model, this new acquisition, this new company, whatever it is that news is about. So it's a way of not just communicating to get something from them, but it's a way in really coming at a level 5 approach where, I'd like to offer something that may be helpful for them.
Right.
And they may benefit and I benefit. I now may open the door for a new relationship to get started. It's
let's talk about this. Maybe we can partner together.
Exactly.
And really what I'm hearing as you describe this is you're taking the tail end of your role clarity worksheet, which we talked about in our previous episode, and applying it not to the role that you're in right now in order to make yourself indispensable. You're applying it to a possible upcoming role, and you're asking, what can I do now to increase my value in this potential role? How can I
Exactly.
get better at what I do for the sake of this opportunity that's come up? What skills, what expertise do I have that I can apply to this company that will be a good opportunity for me and make that company a better company?
You got it. Exactly. And that's how it works. As you get ready for the conversations to have move into then maybe formal interviews, as they start to see, wow, you do bring something to the table that we could really use. So now it's moving into a true win-win, even though you haven't made the decision to join them yet, they haven't offered you a job yet. So you have a conversation with them, which is, in other words, sometimes called an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of two things can happen. And this is where a lot of my clients, as I talk to them about after they've had the conversations, the interviews, and the several meetings, and then they're in the waiting pattern. Well, I'm waiting for them to make a decision. And now they've dropped into their level 1. They were in level 5. They showed up strong. They did a great job for what the conversation was about. And then they drop into level 1, where they feel the decision is in somebody else's hands. So that doesn't feel very good. Then frustration starts to build. Then, insecurity starts to build. Then the thought, I better just stay where I am and tolerate this because, I'm not sure whether I'm really going to get this other one or not. So what we talk about is how to shift that out of level 1 into a more productive space. And again, that just simply goes back to the role clarity exercise, where you then can reconnect with the person you met with and talked to. It could be a week later, 2 weeks later, it doesn't matter. And say, hey, something came to mind since we last spoke. So you're not asking them for an update on the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Because that just gives that person another thing to add to their to-do list. Get back to Sherry on this. I told her I would get her an update by next week. I don't have it yet. We're going to have a meeting on it. We didn't have the meeting. Something else came up. Whatever reasons. You don't have to sit there and be victim to it. So you can stay connected with that person out of a level 5 partnership as if you're working together now as teammates. And you say, hey, since we last spoke, I saw something came to mind that we didn't talk about that might be useful based on our last conversation. We talked about one of the biggest challenges is having the team stay focused when there's change in management. Something that, we didn't talk about that I had experienced at this last position was we had this scenario, and you go into a story about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're just sharing, again, something that could be useful for them in that new company that you haven't yet joined. So they're seeing you as really valuable, as someone who cares, as someone who's really interested in being a part of what they're up to.
Yeah.
Instead of being someone who's waiting on a decision and they're embarrassed that they haven't given you a decision yet because they haven't figured it out. So it's a different approach to follow up in those interviews.
Absolutely. As I'm listening to you describe that, and I think it's probably the typical kind of feeling. I've sent my resume in. It was good enough for them to want to interview me. We've had a couple of interviews with a few different people, and now I look at it as if the trial is over and the jury is out,
right,
and there's nothing I can do until the verdict comes back. Am I guilty or not guilty?
Exactly. That's awesome.
But the way you're describing it is, well, my resume was the ticket to start the conversation. Now I've got some new relationships with some new people that I'm partnering with, and we've had conversations, and my follow-up is just continuing the conversation as if I'm already working with them, not, hey, please take mercy on me and tell me whether or not I'm hired.
Yeah, you got it. Yep, that's exactly it. That's exactly it, Phil. And it's so much more enjoyable that way. And even if you don't get a position, the position that you were talking about, you stay front of mind for them for maybe an even better position that becomes available. So that's the idea is we're human beings in a relationship game. We're not fixed assets that,
components
just get
in a machine.
Bought and sold. Right. Exactly. So that's, and it just feels good to build new relationships with people that you never know where they're going to be next. They may end up not even staying at that particular company. They go to another one. And they remember you because you weren't high maintenance. You weren't something they had to keep, taking care of. Instead, they remember you fondly as someone who continued to support them in their role that they're in and making it easier for them.
Yeah.
My coach Steve would say to me constantly as I develop relationships with clients and potential clients is, the conversation is never over until they get a restraining order on you. So that's what I, recommend to my clients when they're interviewing and when they're talking to, potential next level positions. It's like, the conversation's never over until a restraining order is issued. So stay in conversation. That's the key.
Stay in conversation. Well, I find this pretty inspiring, this conversation and the perspective of using this role clarity tool, as you describe it, totally changing the dynamics of moving into new roles or job opportunities of, the kind of level one, can't do anything, wait for something to happen, or level 3, I just need to execute my plan, into this level 5, level 6 space where I'm just engaging in conversations. I'm making new relationships with people who may be my new partners in business. And I'm going to just keep the conversation going until they tell me to shut up. And it sounds so much more empowering and inspiring and like you said, a lot more fun to take that kind of approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you, Sherry. Really appreciate the discussion today.
Thank you.
And I hope you also enjoyed our conversation today. If you feel like you would benefit from this kind of role clarity exercise, especially from walking through it with a coach who is intimately familiar with how to drill down into this kind of thing, you can contact Sherry through her website. There's email and phone number there. Be sure also to subscribe to the Sherry Welsh Coaching Podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and other podcast directories. For Sherry Welsh today, this is Phil Johnson. Thank you for listening.